you've gone full out at the background today because I guess you're showing your wares.
Yeah, this is what I'm about. Yeah.
I like the idea of drinking coffee, but
do you not drink coffee at all?
No, don't drink coffee. I don't like the taste.
Oh right.
I don't actually have any caffeine.
Right. Oh, this is. I don't have caffeine normally, but this is really strong. It's sanked out, and it's absolutely has a chocolatey sort of taste to it.
Is it? Has everyone else? If you were, oh, Margaret says hello. Has
Hello.
everyone got a brew? We're just checking in on brews. Has everyone got one? If you haven't, shout and get yourself a brew before we start.
Yeah, we can't get them.
So I'll give people one more minute and then we'll make a start. That's okay. Got blue sky over here today, Barbara.
It's a bit grey here, but at least it's bright because when it gets dark, you can't see my face. So, and I can see the spire.
Good. All right. I think we'll make a start if that's okay. So, hello everyone. Welcome to a conversation with Barbara Lewis. My name is Emma Smith, and this is indeed Barbara Lewis. Barbara is a facilitator with Empowered Conversations and also the founder of Lime and Tire. And I'm laughing because I've said it wrong. Said it right there, didn't I?
It was right.
Lemon and Tire.
Lyman
and Tire. Okay. I had practiced that several times and still managed to get it wrong. So sorry, Barbara.
Never make a newsreader.
So I'll just give you a little bit of background about Empowered Conversations for anyone who hasn't come across us before. Empowered Conversations deliver communication courses across Greater Manchester. So we've done that for the last 3 years. We're now doing that online. We also deliver a programme called Empowered Carers, which offers one-to-one support for family carers in Salford. And since COVID, we have been doing more online stuff. So this is part of that online stuff that we deliver. We also have engagement sessions, sort of come and sing with Margaret and Barbara. We have Escape to the Disco. We run online carers groups. And we've got a series of new things that are going to kick in November. So we have 2 new courses coming up in November, which will be online. One will be in a daytime, one will be in an evening time. And we've also got something called masterclasses. And that's going to kick off on Tuesday, the 3rd of November in the morning. And it's and we've got dementia-friendly homes. So these are more, so the masterclasses are more sort of those practical tips for people, for carers, people caring at home. So whether that's, so we've got, I'll tell you what we've got coming up. We've got hairdressing, so sort of everything from washing hair through to drying hair. We've also got dementia-friendly homes. We're hoping to get a male grooming one, so we're looking at ear hair and nose hair and shaving and all of that stuff. So I'll be sharing that information, but you know, keep looking at the website, keep looking at Facebook and Twitter for more information about that. So that's probably enough of me wittering on. I'll just give you at the bottom of your screen, if you haven't been on a seminar before, it's right that you only see Barbara and myself. At the bottom of your screen, there's a little chat function. So if you want, Margaret's already taken that opportunity to say hello. We've also got a Q&A. So as Barbara's talking, if you think, oh, I've got a question, rather than just hold it in your head, just encourage you just to pop it down in the Q&A, and then we'll address those at the end. So the format for today is a talk from Barbara, and then we'll come back together. We might have a little chat about stuff that Barbara said, and then we'll finish with a Q&A. So I hope that's okay for everyone. I'm really pleased that we've got a really nice group of people on today, Barbara. So we've got quite a few friends who are on, and we've got people affected by dementia who are on, and we've got people from around Greater Manchester. So really nice audience. So I think we'll probably make a start if that's okay, Barbara.
Okay. Right. Let me do. You're going to have to bear with me. I haven't done the sharing screen bit before, so just bear with me. Right. Okay. So Oh, I need to move you out of the way. Sorry. So, right, great. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming along, and thank you to Emma and Empowered Conversations for allowing me to come and share some thoughts with you today. I'm going to share how curiosity and creativity meant that my sister and I could help my mother maintain her dignity, identity, and individuality and live the best life she could while she was living with late stage dementia at the end of her life. I hope to demonstrate how the questions why, how, what if, and I wonder became so important. I could probably talk all day, but I'll try not to. I just want to pull out specific instances really to illustrate the general principles of what I'm talking about. So, how do I do that? There we go, stop screen share. Right, okay. I am not an academic in the field about dementia, and of course I don't suggest I've got all the answers. Everyone's different, but I'd like to share our and our mother's personal story that anything that might be useful can be used by others in the same situation. So who am I and what's brought me here today? So a great deal of what I'm doing today is down to this lady. Ooh, this isn't quite as, there we go. This lady here. Come on, there we go. My mum. Like most people's mums, she was a marvellous lady and inspired me in so many ways. She was a talented seamstress and tailor, which are skills she's passed on to me, though I'm not quite as good, I don't think. She was stylish and caring. She was a doer who understood her and acted on her own social responsibility. For example, she was the Salford Diocesan Catholic Women's League president. She was a school governor, a long-service member of Save the Children Fund. She looked after her mum, pictured here. And it was never too late for anything. The picture where she's sitting at the piano was taken after she'd gained 5 O-levels at the age of 48. She then went on to train as a teacher and eventually became a head teacher. This was all while bringing up 9 young children, of which I am the youngest. I then studied textiles at Leeds University. I've got nearly 20 years experience in fashion buying and product development, and actually for about 7 of those years I developed products for people, for a catalogue for people with mobility limitations and the elderly. During a career break, I then trained and qualified as a further education teacher. I spent 6 years teaching, initially as a basic skills tutor and later on in subjects like business studies and maths and IT. But in that time I learned a lot about the brain and its functioning, which came in useful later on. I love music, as some of you know, and I'm a trained singer, and while teaching I noticed an advert for and set up Rhythm Time franchise, which combined my loves of music and teaching and business. And I was teaching music to babies and toddlers and the value of it to the parents. This experience, apart from being the best job in the world, and the knowledge that I gained, again, came in really useful when I was looking after my mum. Early in 2008, I emigrated with my husband and 2 children to New Zealand, again inspired by mum, who was born there. And there I became head of fashion buying at the Kirkcaldy and Staines. It's an independent department store in Wellington. We lived there until 2011. We had intended staying there, but mum sadly had developed dementia. So I needed to come back and help my eldest sister, Catherine, to look after her. And together, with some support from other family members, we managed to keep mum at home right until the end, until she died in August 2014. She'd always made it really clear that home was where she wanted to be. And this was achieved in the end, but with quite a lot of angst and frustration, ingenuity, a little laughter between the 2 of us, and creativity, but most of all, actually, with love. But since mum died, my life is still full of dementia, actually, but because I wanted to share the experience and the knowledge that I'd gained and help raise awareness of this illness that I'd previously known nothing about, yet so prevalent. I became a Dementia Friends champion, set up a company named after my mum, Lyman Attire, to produce and distribute the products that I'd made for mum. And I met the wonderful Emma and was invited to join the amazing Empowered Conversations team. And I'm also a member and founder member and co-chair of the Tameside and Glossop Dementia Action Alliance. So, mum's dementia had developed and became evident after dad had died and I'd gone to New Zealand. She'd moved in with my sister, who was struggling to care for her, so I joined her and together we became her main carers for the last 3 years of her life. Catherine was a former head teacher of an infant school, and we pooled our skills and bounced ideas around and tried to come up with answers that we all know are very difficult issues. I knew nothing about dementia, although I quickly got to reading about it. But I did know my mum very well, and she was a very proud, highly intelligent and independent lady. So yes, Emma.
Just slow it down a little bit.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I'm a bit aware of time. I'm sorry. Yeah. So she was a very proud, intelligent and independent lady. So whatever we did, we had to remember that. At the end of the day, we weren't caring for someone with dementia. We were caring for our mum, who was another human being with feelings and emotions. The dementia may have changed her behaviours and taken away some of her faculties, but deep down inside, she was mum, and we knew that. And that's the bottom line, really, whoever you might be caring for and whatever condition they have. I applied the same principles when I was helping to care for my mother-in-law, who at the end of her life recently, she'd developed motor neuron disease and had lost all verbal communication and eventually could do nothing for herself. But that wasn't what defined her. She was my husband's mum, a human being with feelings and emotion just like us, and it was up to me to do everything possible to maintain her emotional well-being and dignity, as well as keeping her comfy and safe. If I could define one thing we did whilst caring for mum, it was always remaining curious and continually asking the questions why something was happening and how could we help. The three things we always considered were mum's dignity, her identity and her individuality, and these guided us in her care. And we tried to ensure as well that she had a control over as much life of her life as possible. So where did curiosity and creativity come in? Well, isn't this how we always, us as humans, solve our problems? Problems identified, we ask ourselves why it's a problem, what's causing it, and what, if anything, we can do to sort it out. We have to think out of the box. We don't have to accept that there's only one answer, one way of doing things. And we can explore and research until we come up with an answer that works, even if it's just understanding it and accepting it. A lot of the actions we took when caring for mum were instinctive, actually, and it's actually probably only since she's died that I've started to analyse what we've done. We tried to maintain her dignity at all times. But what did that mean? So, sorry, this list here, although it's not exhaustive, is what I think dignity in dementia looks like. So being treated as a person, as having worth, maintaining a sense of individuality and identity, including being allowed and helped to dress as one has always dressed, and not for the convenience of others. How we look profoundly affects how people treat us. And there's having privacy as far as possible, being able to do as much as oneself for oneself, so having control, being occupied and feeling useful, being free from agitation and frustration, being communicated with in an appropriate manner to aid understanding, with the use of appropriate language from others, not being patronised, being free from stigma and being loved. I know it's hard to provide all that, and wow, how much time does it take? Wow. Time. It's a very necessary factor, and I believe actually it's the overriding factor when needed when caring for someone, and something we're all short of. Catherine and I were in a special position because there were two of us with a common goal and with very supportive husbands. Catherine was retired and I'd given up my job, so between us we made the time. Some people might say, why bother at this stage? Well, she's not there and doesn't know who you are. In fact, the psychiatrist that diagnosed Mum as having dementia had said, put her in a home, get on with your lives. Well, we weren't about to do that. So why was I caring for her? Was she still there and did she still recognise me? Well, first of all, what did it matter if she didn't recognise me? She was my mum, who had loved and cared for me throughout my life, and now I had the honour of returning some of that love and care when she was at her most vulnerable. Also, let's think, how does she feel about this? Probably a lot worse than I felt. She was probably frightened that she couldn't remember who people were. So it seemed to me that treating her with kindness at that point was even more important. I could see Mum was there though. Even when she couldn't communicate verbally, I could see her in her actions and her mannerisms. And things that she did were small but significant. So she'd keep pulling the skirt down over her knees so she was respectable. She counted buttons on a cardigan or a blouse, which to me was a sign she was trying to make sense of things and really hold on to that part of her brain that was still working. Occasionally she'd say, "What on earth are you wearing?" Well, this was when she couldn't actually speak much, and that was definitely my mum. She consistently reached for 2 photos in particular, and they were of the two most important men in her life, a husband and a dad. And she'd sit talking to them and shouting at them because they'd left her. And she did this even in the week when she died. There was nothing random about it. She knew we were important because I could see that in her smile. Might not remember my name, but she smiled. A nose went in the air, which was very typically my mum. Just show you this. These were taken, very late on in her dementia. But you can see that I'm mum, and that was really very much her. So I knew she knew who she was. She could be awkward and determined, and a lot of people might have thought that was the dementia, but actually we knew that was her. And even very close to the end, we knew she was still there. We came to realise that she'd actually been helping us when we'd been moving her around the bed on a slide sheet or in the hoist. She'd really helped us because it became so much more difficult for us when she couldn't physically help. And she used to look up at us as if to say, "I'm sorry, I can't help anymore." And she was there. So if there's one thing I could say to anyone looking after someone with dementia, it's really, please remember they're still there. Look for them. Just that will help you treat them with dignity and talk to them as you always would have done. So now you know why I did it. Let's have a look at some of the specifics of where curiosity and creativity come in. So let's consider communication. By the time I'd got back from New Zealand, Mum was already having trouble communicating verbally, and it only got worse. But we could see she understood what we said, so it was up to us to try and make life easier for her. With such difficulty expressing herself, she'd become agitated and frustrated and apparently quite angry. So how did we tackle this? Well, in the main, we asked the questions: why, what if, I wonder, how can I? And often we came up with an answer. For example, she used to shout quite angrily during the day, and apart from the fact she was simply frustrated, we couldn't think why or what she was trying to communicate to us. But it occurred to us one day, very guiltily, that she'd actually had really painful knees before the dementia set in. Why would it have gone away? We asked ourselves. So we discussed it with the GP, and he prescribed a regular dose of paracetamol. And she came much calmer once she'd started taking them. And funnily enough, at the same time, my niece had found that there's research actually that concludes that effective management of pain can play an important part in the treatment of agitation and could reduce the number of unnecessary prescriptions for psychotropic drugs in this population. So that worked. At other times she'd be shouting, it turned out she wanted company and love. She had her own chair she sat on. But we asked ourselves, what if we sit next to her? We found that sitting next to her beside on a settee, holding her hand and allowing her to rest her shoulder on our heads was often like magic. She'd sit quietly with us rather than shouting when she was sitting in her own chair, which was lovely. We instinctively knew that questions were going to be difficult for Mum to answer and would only serve to frustrate her more, particularly if there were things like, "Who am I?" or "Do you know who I am?" So we tried introducing ourselves and what we were to her, and this really did reassure her. Where the questions did need to be asked, what if we kept them simple? For example, Would you like sandwiches or soup for tea? She managed to answer these because we weren't trying to think of something nebulous. She knew what we were asking her. And it also gave her some control over what she was eating. What if we commented on something like the weather or a bird in the garden or how lovely she looked that day? Would she respond? Indeed, she did often react. And we didn't realise back then that we were using invitation to respond, as advocated by Empowered Conversations. So that was great. We watched for patterns. Observation is really important. That might give us clues to what she was trying to communicate. There was one particular thing that used to irritate us terribly until we realised what it was she was trying to do. If she wanted another cup of tea, she'd get a cup and she'd bang on the table. Oh, but she was communicating with us, actually. Once we realised that, the banging ceased to irritate us because we knew how to react. So we also listened to her. We felt there must be a reason for any sound she was making. We had to keep wondering to find out. We didn't always succeed, but often we did. But this was something I was reminded of when I went to the premiere of Holly Marland's So Many Beauties, the oratorio that she wrote with people with dementia. One aria says, "So many beauties, though they might seem muddled up, we only have to listen, only listen. All our sounds have some intent." And that was really, really true. Now, I've always sung wherever I am, even in board meetings sometimes. And my experience with the music franchise have given me a lot of insight into how music and singing in particular can help with communication. And I wondered if it would help with Mum. I used singing instinctively with her, but I'd also read research about music activating both sides of the brain and even creating new connections, as well as research showing that music, rather than the spoken word, helped people recover better from strokes. So we tried actively using music, not just for listening or bringing back memories, which are all great, but to communicate with her. And it worked and helped her understand. We found one of the most successful ways of communicating our wishes to her was by singing, and it helped us navigate that day with her as well. We often found that introducing ourselves with a little tune helped her understand. So, "Good morning, Winnie Lyman, I'm your youngest daughter, and Barbara's my name." That simple song did so much. It reminded her who she was, who I was, what our relationship was, the time of day, and my name, all in a little ditty. And at the very least, it'd bring a smile to her face, as if to say, "You're still bonkers." But I immediately felt I could face the day too. Giving an instruction with a tune rather than just speaking also helped Mum understand. For example, "Let's go for a shower, a shower, a shower. Let's go for a shower and get nice and clean." Or, "Left foot, right foot, 1, 2, 3. Left foot, right foot, 1, 2, 3. Left foot, right foot, 1, 2, 3. Into the kitchen, mother." And the beat in that music helped her walk as well. You'll also notice that there's repetition in there. But that's so much more acceptable in music than in the spoken word to both parties, isn't it? At bedtime, we'd sing, "Show me the way to go."
Home.
Thank you. Leaving words out for her to sing. And it wouldn't just orientate the day, but it kept her language skills going. And I think it actually gave her a sense of achievement as well. And it was a bit of fun. So I'd encourage everyone to sing as much as possible when you're caring for someone. Doesn't matter how good or otherwise you think your voice is. It really doesn't matter. Use simple tunes, or if you like, use a rock ballad that you know or that they know and put other words to it. It depends on your experiences, very much so. It can aid understanding, and it'll make you feel better because it releases relieving endorphins, anti-stress hormones. And it can take the stress out of a situation. If you try singing a little ditty while you're angry, you can't be angry. It's quite difficult. So that's all on communication. Now, keeping her occupied, that was another thing. We all need to feel useful, don't we? And have things to do. How could we help with this, and how did we use our curiosity and creativity to come up with practical solutions? When Mum first came to live with my sister, she carried out a skills assessment, much as she would have done when she was a head teacher. And it turned out she could do all sorts of things still. She could fold clothes, she could iron, she could peel potatoes, all those little things that she could be helping with and feel useful. Now, things, as they became more difficult, we had to become a bit more inventive and find ribbons to sort or buttons to sort or socks, but it was still making her feel useful. She used to fold the one-time towels, which I'll explain about later, which were actually Catherine's daughter's nappies. And one day we found her folding them into a kite shape, as she would have done with her babies. And long before dementia dolls had become the norm, Catherine wondered if a doll would comfort her, and it did. And then she found this most gorgeous little doggy for her with floppy ears. And Mum would spend ages playing with his ears and moving the fur out of it and just talking to him gently all day. She'd love that. We wondered whether she could still knit. So we gave her a pair of knitting needles and some wool. And yes, she could. And she even taught my sister-in-law to cast on. She knitted squares, as she'd done in her younger days, for blankets like the Save the Children Fund. But they weren't perfect, but that's not what mattered. It was the fact she was doing it. We'd get her to write the shopping list, which kept her engaged and feel useful. It kept her fine motor skills and her writing going, and it gave her a chance to add her own choices. We'd always make sure she opened her own Christmas cards and her birthday cards and signed them as well. Even though the last Christmas was really difficult, but she kept trying. But it also meant that people didn't forget her, and she got cards back, and it maintained her identity. I'd brought some really quite complex interlocking table mats back from New Zealand, and for Catherine, they were on the table, and we observed Mum trying to lock them together one day. And making activity out of those everyday things made us wonder what could do better with her environment closest in. So we made sure she had lightweight magazines or little books like this, which were lovely to read but easy to hold. And we made little games out of fabric that we were using, sort of matching games, but they didn't look childish or patronising. And the button counting that I mentioned earlier led us to wonder if she could still play dominoes. And boy, she could. It was amazing. She could still make sense of numbers, even though it did come, it did become more difficult because, you know, she was putting a 6 down, she might put a 5 and a 1, but it still made sense to her. And of course we invented a little ditty to remind her of the rules while we were playing. So you can see here on the screen all the sort of things, the dominoes, the ironing, the folding, and the things she was doing for herself. But anywhere she may have been able to help us, we tried to facilitate it, to make her feel useful. So let's have a quick look at meal times now. How am I doing for time? We're okay, aren't we? As Mum gradually lost the ability to use utensils, we saw her not eat in front of other people. Why not? Don't know, you know, what was going on. And we wondered if it was because she didn't want to show herself up in front of others, because, as I say, she was a very proud lady. It was really important so that we worked out how she could still feed herself and maintain control of what she was eating. So what did we do? We got creative and we had some fun. So observing what she was still able to do was really important. She could still pick things up with ease. It was the fact that she couldn't coordinate the complex movements involved in using a knife and fork. So we turned more and more to finger food. Something like this. This is not one of her meals, it's one I made up, but it gives you an idea. So we had fun thinking of lots of little fillings for sandwiches that were going to be tasty and nutrition and wouldn't fall apart for her. We cut them into bite-sized pieces and presented them on a plate, and we'd leave the crusts off because it was becoming much more difficult for her to chew. We then made, these were fun, miniature cream teas like these. And when these went down really well, and we presented them, you'll notice that they're in patterns. We did this on purpose because we'd noticed that she moved whatever she was eating into specific patterns. So if we gave her those raspberries in a square number, as she ate, she made them into a triangular number here. So her mathematical brain was still working. It was really interesting. And you also see the owl maps. They're the ones we were using from offcuts of fabrics, but it gave her a matching game to keep her mind active. It was becoming more difficult for Mum to drink from china cups that she delighted in. So how could we keep her hydrated? She needed to drink still. So we found fruit with lots of juice in, so satsumas, and that actually again gave her control over what she was eating, because she was peeling them and segmenting. The raspberries that you saw earlier were great. They were easy to pick up and brightly coloured, so she could see them. They'd squash in her mouth, and they were tangy and had plenty of juice, and they were really nutritious. Became really inventive with soups, although we had to help Mum with these. And we added lots of flavours, adding various spices to ensure they were tasty enough for her ever-failing taste buds. And it actually taught me a lot about flavours and improved my cooking no end. Really interesting. And guess what else we did? Yes, we sang. I'd encourage her eating and drinking by doing things like tasty, tasty, very, very tasty, it's very tasty, or tea for two and two for tea, one for you and one for me. And I know it sounds a bit silly, but it did work, honestly. Another problem with meal times was protecting Mum's lovely clothes. She didn't want to stain them. So how were we going to to help her stay clean without damaging her dignity or self-esteem? We started off with serviettes and napkins, but of course they don't stay on very easily, and eventually they're not effective enough. We looked at the products on the market, like these, but if we look at them, whoops, there we go, share. No, Mum wasn't going to be wearing any of these distressingly awful things. The way we look is so tied into our identity and the way that we're perceived by others. I believe it's really important that if people must wear clothing protectors, they should be attractive as well as functional. So you've got to see the person, not what they're wearing. So rather than going for these easy, already invented options, we thought creatively. We'd started asking Mum to wear kitchen aprons, something like this. Nice, lots of patterns on them. She wore these very happily because she'd worn aprons all her life. There was no stigma with them, not like a bib. They actually gave our siblings ideas for gifts, and she soon ended up with a huge selection of gorgeous aprons. But one day we were observing Mum, and she was interacting with these cats. She was counting them, or she was tracing them. And of course you look down, we had a light bulb moment, thought, oh, in her world everything's upside down, how horrendous. So what did we do? We got creative just for a change, and we invented the Lyman diamond apron. So much more attractive, aren't they, and pretty, and they've got lots of gorgeous designs. And I was making them anyway, so I made them fit for purpose. So if I just show you this one as well, this is an ugly sheep design. I love the sheep. They've got a round neckline. Can you see them? Lots of little sheepies on them. They've got a toweling liner inside. Just a single Velcro fastening, so they're easy to put on. And we've not got straps on them because you don't really need them, and they just frustrate us when they get tangled in the wash. It meant that she could carry on keeping control of the eating for as long as possible without worrying about her clothes. The patterns were important because the large prints needed to be easily seen. It's all well and good having beautiful surroundings, but if the surrounding that's really close to you is ugly, I'd see no point in having gorgeous surroundings. They also sparked conversation with people. You know, they'd come in, oh, I like your owls, Mum, and oh, you look lovely, and that's a sewing machine just like you used to use, isn't it? So invitations to respond again. Just as importantly, so she'd be looking and she'd be interacting with, but they felt nice as well. They weren't horrid plastic. And it was important because it gave joy to us as the beholders as well. We weren't surrounded by depressing plastic in nasty colours, and it helped us to see Mum and not the dementia. And it's also free from the stigma of the name of bib. It's a drapron, not a bib. And lastly, effort was put into that design, so it gave Mum a feeling of worth as well, because we'd really tried with that. I'm not stirring my screen still, am I? No, I'm not. Sorry. I can't see what I'm doing here, sorry. So, being creative like this as well was good for us as carers, because I enjoyed making the draperons. It gave me something to think about other than caring. I got out to look for fabrics, I started using my sewing machine, and I got a sense of achievement and retained my own identity as well. So let's have a look at another area that's difficult in life, caring life particularly. Showering and personal care. Mum needed help. So how were we going to make this as dignified as possible for her and as easy as possible for us? We did lots of research. Oops, daisy. Research, of course. And how, and I wonder. Catherine was really creative in creating a small wet room. Let me just show you that. Hang on, sorry. There we go. Oh, there we go. It's only small because they don't really need to be big, depending on the person, of course. But there were no rails in there, so it didn't look like a disabled loo. Catherine had it designed so that Mum could lean on the sink. And she'd had a higher than average loo fitted and installed a bidet shower. What is a bidet shower? This is a bidet shower. So, oops. It's handheld and can be stopped and started using one finger, you can see. Being easily controlled and gentle, it was great for showering Mum, but it also helped to retain a dignity when she was being helped on the loo, making it a lot less unpleasant for all of us. And that, along with our one-time towels here that are stacked on the loo, which are the old nappies, made personal care and going to the loo much less unpleasant for us all. You shower with the shower and you dab with the towels, and there's no bottom wiping. And I know this is a difficult subject, but we need to talk about it because it won't improve otherwise. So we did those, but so that sort of, she had a nice heated floor put in there as well, and so it was as pleasant as it could be. But she would still shout when she was being helped to shower. She even used to pull our hair on occasions, and we took to wearing a bobble hat. She'd rip off the disposable plastic aprons that I occasionally wore to keep myself dry. Why was she doing this, we asked, and how could I help? Well, having seen the success of the dining draperons and noticing that Mum sometimes commented on what we wore still, I wondered if I could make it more attractive, something more attractive to wear in the shower. And this is what I came up with. I found the owl fabric that she liked in her own aprons, but PVC coated. So then I had something that kept me dry. It was amazing. She actually interacted with the owls. She'd point to them, and she was no longer trying to pull it off me. Fantastic. And so by pulling at the horrid apron, she'd actually been trying to communicate with us that she didn't like it. And then when you have such a result, it encourages you to be curious with more of the behaviours. So that was that part of the process sorted, but she was still very agitated. And why? Well, I've heard people who have a relative in a care home saying that they're very happy there, except when they come to showering, and they become quite objectionable. Well, you probably would if we all like privacy showering, and if you don't fully understand why someone's having to help you, you would object. Certainly Mum was quite a challenge. We'd just about solved the problem of getting her to the shower. That was okay, but she'd hang on to the towel round a thing and over her knees, and it was quite difficult, and we'd end up with sopping wet towels all over the place. So this time it was the turn of our other sister. I've got two sisters. She was thinking creatively and said, what she needs is one of those things that nuns bathe in. We were all educated at convent school but had no idea what nuns bathed in. But it didn't matter. It was the concept that got me going and thinking creatively. So I came up with this. So I'll show it you first, just so you can see what the very, very lightweight fabric here. Okay, and it became this, and I'll share the screen again, and it's the Lyman Never Naked shower set. So it looks a bit weird, I know. But what a difference it made. I'll show it you in action here, and you have to forgive the models. We've done some very strange things, Catherine and I. So, but it took a great deal of stress out of showering. She was much calmer. So it slips over the shoulders, and the it fastens with a little magnet. We could help Mum undress underneath it, and she still felt she was covered. And you leave it on while you're showering, and it was light enough for the water to pass through. You saw that fabric. And then we could just lift it and wash legs and tummies and things. And it was really simple. And then we put a towel the same shape over and take the wet one out. What it did was help level that unequal power dynamic of aided bathing that's referred to by Professor Julia Twigg of Kent University. I've done the research since Mum died, not before. And it certainly helped our mum to feel more comfortable and stop fighting us. And you know what I also sang? I'm gonna wash that man right out of my hair. And it took kept the situation light and calm. So, last thing I'm going to talk about is bedtime and sleeping. You may think by what I've said so far that we managed to solve every problem that caring for Mum threw at us, but no, it didn't. One of the problems we never got to the bottom of was, even when we asked why and how and what if, was she shouted all through the night. We tried all sorts. Was she lonely? So we made sure she was tucked up with a doll and left the radio on. Was she frightened? We left a little light on because she'd always slept with the landing light on. Was she not tired? We tried to keep her awake all day. That was difficult. Was she in pain? We tried making sure we timed a paracetamol so that it took them just before bedtime. All these things made small effect, but never really stopped the shouting. So we guess we never came up with the answer for that. And I often found myself downstairs with her in the middle of the night asking her to please be quiet and cuddling and singing her a lullaby. We could only ever come up with the possibility and the theory that she'd exercised such enormous self-control all day, and at night she thought she was on her own and she could let out all that pent-up fear and sadness and confusion. Some things just can't easily be solved, so that just went on. But as time went on and Mum spent more and more time in bed near the end, we had the additional problem of ensuring she didn't develop pressure sores. We were provided with the usual heel pads, but they weren't really effective and you had to get them in just the right place, and they were rather cold. So what did we do? We asked how else we could help and did lots of research. This is where the sheep I mentioned in the invitation comes in. I'd remembered that in New Zealand, merino sheepskins are used very commonly for babies to lie on. And on researching, found that there was such a thing as a medical sheepskin and other sheepskin products to help protect skin. We tried the heel guards, which are these little booties. They've been well used. And a hand guard, as we found Mum was really clenching her fist and beginning to dig into her palms. And they were so effective that we decided to splash out on the full sheepskin for underneath her, this is it here, very big sheepskin. Fabulously dense. Academic research that we'd seen had told us they're incredibly effective at preventing pressure sores. They're really dense and supportive and comfortable, and they're temperature regulating as well as being washable, which is a must. They weren't cheap, but we tried one and it was so successful, and Mum was obviously really comfy in it, that we've splashed out and got others. They were much more pleasant to lie on than a noisy and vibrating cold air mattress. She didn't get any pressure sores with those, and she was clearly really comfortable. So, what to wear in bed? Some people don't worry, but I do, and she did. So, how could we make sure she was as presentable as she would want to be whilst being comfy? She'd always have nice nighties on, even though I had to alter them to be fit for purpose. We tried bed jackets like these here, these lovely items here. But you can see they're long, they come down your back to your waist. And to me, wearing something that was long and could easily be bunched up after we'd put so much effort in not to get in pressure sores, it seemed that they were a ridiculous thing. Plus they were really difficult to get in because Mum's arms became less and less mobile. So I thought out of the box and experimented and did all sorts of strange things. And I did things like I got one of my 80s silk shirts with nice deep armholes and chopped the bottom off it and chopped the back out of it. And of course she then just looked as if she was dressed. But I carried on experimenting, and what we actually ended up with was these merino sleeves that I've got on here. You can see that the sleeve doesn't start till there, so they're really, really easy to get on. And they came in different colours. But they're easy to get off as well. I mean, if she was sleeping, I could just whip it over her head, and it didn't bother her. But they look like day wear, which was really useful. Again, temperature regulating, didn't matter if she fell asleep in them, as she did when she was more and more tired. And she could, if she was out of bed, if she didn't want to get out of a nightie, she could leave those on, put a nice dining apron on, and she still looked lovely for visitors, which was really important for her. So in the last days, I read a lot of poetry to her, to soothe and comfort her. On the last day we could see that she clearly didn't have long, and we'd already moved her bed so she could see what was out of the window, the flowers and the trees. Talked to her about her beloved father and mum that she'd cared for, my dad, and yes, I sang. I sang lullabies to her that she'd sung to me and the children. She died at home with dignity, as she wanted to. And before she took her last breath, she looked at me as she was trying to say something, and I think it was thank you, and I hope it was. Looking after mum, sorry, that always gets me a bit, that had at times been extremely stressful, not only for my sister and I, but for families too. It had been really intense, as well as being physically demanding. It was hard for us to see mum, who had been such an active and intelligent person, decline so badly into someone who couldn't talk any longer and couldn't get to the loo by herself. But we're instinctively creative, and we worked on things, and we managed to laugh a lot together whilst trying to solve some of those problems. You actually probably wouldn't believe some of the things I've done. I'll just share this with you. I did all sorts, pulling apart incontinence pads, being moved around on a slide sheet, sitting on showers, and trying out the hoist to see how secure they felt, because I thought it was important, and really, actually, they were really, really comfy, and you feel very secure. So caring for it taught me a great deal about life, dying, and myself. It took patience, empathy, resilience, compassion, curiosity and creativity. And it taught me a lot about communication and relationships. Our curiosity had led to mum's life being better and our lives being less stressful, from both the direct effect on us but the byproduct of mum being calmer and happier. Every time we solved something, we got closer to fulfilling mum's wish of staying at home. So I hope I've demonstrated that by being curious and creative, it can have a positive effect on everyone involved, other members of the families, you, the person with dementia, etc. So let's keep asking those questions. Why? I wonder. How? What? How would I feel in that situation? Is there something in the past that leads to the behaviour? Those questions sometimes lead to answers. Observation is the key, for looking for clues and signs. Never assuming anything. For example, last thing I'll say, one of our physios assumed that she couldn't possibly learn to use a Zimmer frame and left us, so we went and got our own, and actually she could use it, she could learn. So Catherine and I used our combined skills and experience to help care for mum. We all have skills to draw on, whether you're a teacher, an engineer, a buyer, a retail assistant, a parent of a teenager. You'll come up with different solutions from mine, and maybe better. Different people require different things, but the important thing is to be curious and creative. If we don't ask those questions, we'll not get the answers. So I'm just going to share with you one last little photo of mum living the best life that she could, that we could do for her, and I'll hand over to Emma. She looks quite happy there, and that was very, very near the end. Thank you very much for listening so patiently. And here's back to Emma.
Barbara, that was absolutely wonderful. Thank you for sharing that story and for sharing those products and that creativity and that lust for curiosity. Kath Burrows said that was really good, Barbara. Thank you. Rachel said, thank you for sharing your story, Barbara. How emotional and some great practical tips. Away you had me in tears.
Yeah, I nearly had myself in tears as well.
We should have had a little get your tissues ready for this one, everyone.
Yeah, sorry.
I just want to, so everyone feel free to pop questions in while I just, you've got a couple of minutes to get some questions over for Barbara. I think like the thing that strikes me, Barbara, is that you and your sister are really lucky, weren't you? Because you shared that caring role.
Yes.
And you had each other to bounce off.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, like, if it, in a situation where maybe someone doesn't feel like they've got someone to bounce off, you got any suggestions or thoughts about how they could, in a way, find someone to bounce off, like you and Catherine did?
Well, this might sound ridiculous, but actually, I would still talk to my mum. My mum, at the end of the day, before she had dementia, I used to go and download to her, and she came up with things. And actually, I used to find I still did it, and I still downloaded to her. And what if we do this, mum? And what if we do? So, and that might sound a bit silly, but she was the most immediate person. So talk to the person you're with, because actually just saying things out loud often makes you think, right, okay. Yeah, so don't know whether that helps.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that does. And I think it's about sort of involving them in in what's going on, because this is a cat's tail. That's not just a cat.
Hello,
That's something weird. You know what I really liked that you shared about how when your mum went to stay with Catherine, straight away Catherine used her own skill set and she did that skill assessment. She did an audit, and it was very much about what mum could do, not what mum couldn't do. So finding those things that mum could still do. And it sounds like you guys just carried that through right to the end. It was like, what can mum do? What can mum do? That was sort of like a mantra for you both. That was just,
yeah.
Quite often we get stuck, don't we? Oh, they've got dementia, can't do that, can't do this, can't do that. Well, like, can we switch that around? John Zeisler talked about that as well. Can we switch it around? Can we look at hope? Can we look at what people can still do? So I think that was
Let's be positive, not negative. Yeah.
Yeah, because in any situation, people have still got things they can give and can do. So that sort of struck a chord with me. Right, people are just, Barbara, they're not coming in with questions, they're just saying thank you. They're like, Samantha Walters has said, thank you, Barbara, I wish I could have been as creative looking after my mum.
Oh, I'm sure you were as creative as needed. Yes, yeah, we all try our best.
They're being very polite with you.
They are, aren't they?
They're being really, even Martin has been polite and said you're an inspiration, Barbara, thank you.
Goodness, Martin, are you sure?
might still have time to get a dig in, but yeah. I suppose the other thing that people can do, if we do run groups for carers, but finding other people in a similar situation who you can bounce stuff off, that's going to be helpful as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's really finding someone and use whatever groups you've got, whoever you can talk to, and talk about. That's the important thing. Talk about it. Like I've just said, I showed you the bidet shower and the one-time towels. You've got to be open, I think. There's no point in thinking, oh, I daren't talk about this, daren't talk about continence pads, because we even invented a little cover for mum while we were changing her continence pads, because I knew she hated it. So you need to just talk, even if it's uncomfortable.
And your mum's dignity, that just shines through in everything that you and Catherine designed, developed, your different approaches, the bidet shower. It was all about your mum's dignity. So never ever assuming that because someone's got dementia, they don't have dignity anymore, they don't have respect for themselves, and they don't want to be sort of exposed, or that they want their incontinence issue just to be merrily chatted about while you're having a cup of tea. It's all about that person's dignity, isn't it?
Absolutely. They are still human. They are a person. They have emotions and feelings. Absolutely. Completely. Yeah. Dignity was the big thing. And also, we didn't do things for our convenience. It was for her. I know at one point she had pop socks on, and I just thought, oh no, she would have hated that. So I took them off and I made sure she had either stockings or something that was her, not somebody else's convenience. Yeah.
So I'm just going to ask you a question. So the products that you've made, so what do you do with them? Are you selling them? Did it stop with your mum, or are you now selling them? Where do they go? Do they go to care homes? I'm guessing care homes are a really good end market for those.
Well, actually, no. Some, yes. It depends very much on the care home. The Fed in Prestwich, she absolutely loved them, and she ordered some, and I took them in, and the reaction from people was fabulous. Apparently, they used to wear the plastic aprons at dinner time. And Karen took me in and said to the carers, don't want ever to see those again. And I took some in, and there's a lady who used to be an opera singer. She said, oh, like that, can I have one? Every one of them wore them, whereas they wouldn't wear the plastic ones. They preferred to get it down them. And this lady said, and I said, so you like them, do you? She said, I don't like them. I bloody love them. So there are some care homes that will take them. Some others aren't so excited about them. So I actually sell a lot to. In fact, the shower draper at the minute is the thing that's actually selling. I think during COVID, what we're finding is there's a lot more people caring at home because the carers couldn't come in, and they're finding that that's difficult. And yeah, a lot of shower draperons have gone out. They tend to be for individuals, and that's actually what I was aiming for, to be honest, because what I was trying to do was help people to stay at home, keep their loved ones at home, and these were the problems that we solved. Basically, we kept setting ourselves targets. Oh, once we've got to change pads, we can't do it, but when we'd do it, we'd solve it, and we managed it. So So there's a website, basically. A Lyman Attire website is where you can get them if you're interested.
Just be very Lyman Attire, you say Lyman.
Lyman, Limon. Yes, Lyman. And there's I've written lots of blogs as well, just for things we did.
So if people go on there, they'll get all of that information and find out where they can purchase such beautiful products from. Thank you. I've just launched the poll for everyone, so if you get a second. Oh, who was the glamorous lady modelling the shower drapes? Martin. No, Martin. Who was expecting that on a Wednesday afternoon? That was a little bonus for you.
I was very carefully edited, tell you. The things I've done, crazy.
We're not confessing who it was.
Yeah, the dining draper's just a little plug. They make lovely presents. That's what they are. Because that's what I said when we started using aprons. All our siblings kept coming in with gorgeous aprons for us. So these are properly, specially designed. So they make lovely presents.
Are you doing a little Christmas plug there, Barbara?
Could do, couldn't I? Yeah.
You're struggling. What to buy? What to buy? There you go.
Got gorgeous Christmas designs as well.
Oh my Lord.
Oh dear. Can I just say sorry at the beginning, Joy, for talking too quickly. I do tend to gabble, and I'm really sorry.
I think Joy is still with us, so it must have been all right. So thank you so much, Barbara. That was inspirational. It was very heart-wrenching at times, just how far you and your sister went to care and support your mum to live the life that she wanted to live, right to the end. So thank you so much for that. Really, really do appreciate it. And it leads really very well planned into next week's talk, which is about end of life care. So in a way, you've sort of laid the foundations in. So next week we have a conversation with Kaylee Bennett, who's going to be talking about end of life care. So I will send out, you'll get an email tomorrow, everybody, with the links for that conversation. Thank you everyone for coming along today. I hope you found it interesting. If there's any suggestions you have about what else you would like covered on these conversations, then please let us know. As I said, we've got masterclasses starting. And again, today's seminar was quite a nice little launch of the masterclasses. So our first one is with the lovely Karen Clayton, and that's all about making your home dementia friendly. So yeah, thank you everybody. It's 3 o'clock. It's a miracle. We've finished on time with Barbara Lewis. It's a miracle. Everybody clap. And I'll see you all soon.
Thank you for listening. Thank
Oh,
you.
will you be sending the recordings out? Yes, Samantha, I'll send a link out. It'll go onto YouTube. I'll send a link out with where it goes. Okay, thank you so much, Barbara.
Thank you.
See you later, everyone. Bye-bye.